Welcome back to Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life, the podcast. You're listening to 5 Minute Fridays with Coach Myrna. Today, I want to talk on the topic, mastering the art of self-defense, strategies for dealing with enemies. Have you ever been accused of something you didn't do, but you still had to defend yourself? I don't know if you watch the crime shows on TV, but innocence is not a predictor that you will win your case. A lot of innocent people are incarcerated for crimes they did not commit. Your enemies are always plotting against you. So today, I want to share with you some strategies for defending yourself against your enemies, because everything has a strategy. So, in a world where conflicts and confrontations are inevitable, knowing how to defend yourself against your enemies is a valuable skill. Whether you're facing personal adversaries or professional rivals, having effective strategy in place can help you navigate challenging situations with confidence and composure. So I'm taking this topic today from the book, from the Gospel of Acts, right? So there I was reading Paul's story, and it was so interesting that I thought that I would share it with you. Paul was preaching the gospel of Jesus, and the Jews wanted to kill him for several reasons. He was preaching that the man that they just killed, Jesus, God had raised him from the dead. They didn't like that at all, right? And secondly, they were also annoyed that Paul was saying that God loved both the Jews and the Gentiles. And they're saying, no way, because we're superior and God should only love us, not the Gentiles. So as soon as he said that, they said, off with his head. That's what they like to say in those days. So they arrested Paul. Paul was sent to several courts to plead his case. And finally, he said, I want to talk to Caesar. So I want to share with you the strategies of Paul's defense, because obviously you know that Paul was innocent. He was just preaching the gospel, wasn't doing anyone anything, but the people that hated him did not want that message to be across. So there's a lot of reasons enemies hate you, and a lot of times it's not because of anything that you have done. It's just something that they hate, you for a reason, and only they know. But you're going to have to defend yourself. So I want to give you some strategies to defend yourself using as a foundation the strategies that Paul used to defend himself, because they're transferable. So the first thing I was impressed with is that Paul understood his enemies, right? In Acts 23, we see Paul speaking to both the beliefs of the Sadducees and the Pharisees, because they were both his accusers. So when he's defending himself, he had to speak to each one of their beliefs in his defense, right? So it is crucial to understand the nature of your enemies, identify their motives, their strengths, and their weaknesses. And this knowledge will give you an informed approach and enable you to anticipate their actions, giving you a strategic advantage in any confrontation. For example, Paul knew that one of his accusers believed in the afterlife, and the other one didn't. So when he was making his defense statement, he had to speak to both of them in the same, your initial defense, like you see in the courts, right? Your opening statement. That's what he had to do, right? So, and it worked. It's amazing, right? Because then they started going against each other, because he was talking to both of them, and both of them had different beliefs. So now they started attacking each other. That's what you want, your enemies to attack each other instead of you. The second point I want to point out is you need to maintain your composure. When confronted by the enemy, maintaining your composure is key, because it's easy for us to get angry, especially if we're being falsely accused. But avoid reacting impulsively or emotionally, as this can escalate the situation and weaken your position. Instead, stay calm, composed, and focused on your objectives. Take deep breaths, center yourself, and respond thoughtfully rather than reactively. Paul was kept in jail for years, and he never became angry because he knew his defense was going to take time, that people's beliefs are hard to change, and it was going to take time, right? Number 3, set boundaries. Establishing clear boundaries is essential for defending yourself against your enemies. Clearly communicate your limits and expectations and assertively enforce them when necessary. Setting boundaries signal to your enemies that you will not tolerate disrespect or infringements upon your rights. I love the way Paul set his boundaries. When they tried to whip him, he boldly told them that he was a Roman citizen and that it was illegal to whip him without a trial. They thought they could do the same thing to him that they did to Jesus, who I'm guessing was not a Roman citizen, right? So then they had to stop. So no whipping for Paul. All right. Number 4 is assertive communication. Effective communication is a powerful tool in self-defense. Be assertive in expressing your thoughts, feelings, and boundaries to your enemies. Use I statements to convey your perspective without attacking or blaming them. Additionally, practice active listening to understand their viewpoint and identify potential points of compromise or resolution. Paul was a master communicator. Of course, he wrote most of the New Testament, right? But he was also able to present his case so well that at the end, the high priest couldn't find any fault with him. They wanted to release him, but of course, it's politics. They couldn't release him because the Pharisees and the Sadducees didn't want him released. So that's why he kept being in jail, because they couldn't convict him, and Paul was giving such a good defense that the high priest could find nothing wrong with his statements, right? Now, know the law. Now, this is one of the most important things. This is something my husband, being a cop, likes to talk about all the time. You have to know the law, right? If you know the laws regarding your case, whether you're defending yourself in a court of law or at work or with your homeowners association, because what do you know? We have to deal with them. And they also try to take our homes, and the people at work try to take your job, and the people in the court try to put you in jail. So everybody's trying to do something to you unless you tell them the law. Because guess what? If you don't know the law, then they're not going to tell it to you, right? Know your rights. Know the policies of your workplace as written in the employee manual. Paul knew the laws of the Jews and the laws of the court. He also knew as a Roman citizen, he must be offered a trial. And he told them, hey, I've been studying your laws since I was a child, so I know them. Yes, know the law. Now, praise is important. And I love the way that Paul started off his opening statements by praising the judge, right? I was just reading a book that talks that praise expands any relationship. Praise your spouse, praise your boss, praise your kids. And definitely, if you're allowed to speak in court about your case, praise the judge. Everyone likes to be praised. And I'm not talking with flattery, because that is not authentic praise, right? Paul started off his defense with praise for the judge. In Acts 23, he said to Judge Felix, I know that you have been a great judge for several years. In Acts 26, he said to King Agrippa, I am fortunate that you are the one hearing my defense today, because I know that you're expert on Jewish customs and controversies. That must have made both of them feel really great, right? And if Paul could know his enemies way back in this particular time without the internet, then there's no excuse for you. You can research everything on Google. Know your case, know the laws, right? Number 5, build a support network. Surround yourself with supportive network of friends, families, and allies who can offer guidance, encouragement, and protection. Having a strong support system can bolster your confidence and resilience in the case of adversity. Lean on trusted individuals for advice and assistance when dealing with your enemies. Stay vigilant. Stay vigilant and attentive to potential threats from enemies. Monitor the behavior and actions, and be prepared to respond swiftly and decisively if they pose a risk to your safety or well-being. Trust your instincts and take proactive measures to safeguard yourself against potential harm. These people want to do you harm, so watch yourself, and have faith, right? I took this from the Bible, so faith has got to be part of it. One of the best parts of Paul's story was his unwavering faith in God. He knew that God was his protector, and he wasn't afraid to die if he had to, but he knew that God wouldn't allow him to die, right? On the way to Rome, the ship carrying 276 men was shipwrecked on an island. Paul wasn't on the island but for a few hours when a poisonous snake bit him on the hand. The people on the island saw the snake hanging off of Paul's hand and surmised that he was a murderer who had gotten his comeuppance. I know you know that word, right? You will get what you deserve, right? So they waited for him to swell up and die, but nothing happened. So they decided that he was a god. Who else could be bitten by a poisonous snake and nothing happened to him? This inspirational message of this story is that your enemies may try to bite you, they might try to take you out, but you don't have to worry. Because just like the snakes poisoned did nothing to Paul, so your enemies can't hurt you. Just shake them off and keep moving. In conclusion, I want to tell you that defending yourself against your enemies requires a combination of strategic thinking, assertive communication, and faith that God reigns in victory. By understanding your adversaries, maintaining composure, setting boundaries, and leveraging support networks, you can effectively protect yourself and navigate conflicts with confidence and grace. Remember, self-defense is not seeking revenge or escalating conflicts, but asserting your rights, preserving your integrity, and safeguarding your well-being in any situation. So, yes, these are some strategies for you to defend yourself, regardless of where it is. You can be even defending yourself of being falsely accused at home, right? How often does that happen? All the time, right? At work, like I said, in the court system, which is the most important thing, because then if they win, your freedom gets taken away. So it's important to understand the strategy. So I just thought I would share this with you because I read it and I thought it was fantastic. So thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of 5 Minute Fridays with Coach Myrna. I hope that you're inspired. I hope that you took something away. And I hope that if you're watching this on YouTube, that you will hit the subscribe button and maybe even leave a comment on what I've shared. Talk about a time where you had to defend yourself from being falsely accused. If you're watching on iTunes, would love for you to rate the podcast so that it can reach a wider audience. And of course, subscribe. So thanks again for tuning in. And until next time, namaste.